Novelcrafter for outliners. My name is Avon Lee Dean. When writing a novel, there are two types of persons, outliners and pantsers. Let's begin by comparing them. Both pantsers and outliners start with a synopsis and a codex, which normally are manually written. A codex describes the main characters and the main locations. Now a pantser takes an organic approach. She will begin by writing the first scene and the last scene. She will also describe the main characters. Then she will choose one scene on inspiration, and write that scene. And then choose another scene and continue on that way until the whole novel is written. So the novel will evolve organically. An outliners, on the other hand, takes a systematic approach. He will typically ask questions like, how many words will the novel contain? How many chapters should I have? How many scenes per chapter, and so on. Now in practice there are seldom pure outliners and pure pantsers. Most writers are partly outliners and partly pantsers. However, in this tutorial I will concentrate on a pure outliner. So, it's a pure outliner approach from now on. So here is a novel that we will use to exemplify this tutorial. This is Western novel that I am in process of writing, and this is the synopsis for that novel. Now you don't have to read this synopsis in order to follow along this tutorial. But if you do want to read it, just pause this video. Apart from synopsis, we also have a codex. It contains the main characters. In our case they are Hank, Jesse, Rachel, and Amos. Pause the video if you want to read. In codex we also describe the main locations. In our case those are the wilderness, and the town of Red Creek. Pause the video if you want to read. I will show how I work as an outliner. But you can of course adjust this method to your own work. So I want to have a plan before I start to write my novel. And I will use an existing novel to see what kind of structure to use. I have chosen the template, The Call of the Wild, by Jack London. It has approximately 32,000 words. It has 7 chapters, and on average each chapter has 6 scenes. Now some chapters have more than 6 scenes, and some have fewer, but on average they have 6 scenes. And on average every scene has about 800 words. 7 chapters, each chapter having 6 scenes, means that we have 42 scenes. Each scene has 800 words, that means that our novel has about 32,000 words. How many scenes can I write per day? I think I can manage to write 800 words per day, that is 1 scene per day. Since I have 42 scenes in total, that means that I can write the first draft in 42 days. Then I have to reserve some time for administration, let's say 4 days. So I need in total 46 days. Now these are working days. If I calculate the days that I do not work, I will need about 60 days. That is 2 months, to write the whole draft. And that is what it took Jack London, to write The Call of the Wild. He wrote the whole novel in 2 months. Now the basic structure for a novel, is that a novel consists of chapters. A star means multiple. So one novel has multiple chapters, and each chapter has multiple scenes. A synopsis is a summary of a novel. We will use the synopsis to generate a summary for each chapter. We will use a chapter summary to generate all scene summaries, for that chapter. Then we will take a scene summary and generate the scene prose, for that scene. Let's look at the method that we will use. We have our synopsis and our codex, as our starting point. We put our codex into the codex section of Novelcrafter. And then we put the synopsis into a snippet. And we use the synopsis to generate the chapter summaries. We will collect all chapter summaries in a single snippet. Then we will take the summary of chapter 1, and use that to generate 6 scene summaries, that we will save in one snippet. Then we will take the summary of scene 1.1, and use that to generate the prose for that scene 1.1. We will do that in the plan section. Then we will take the summary of scene 1.2, and use that to generate the prose for the scene 1.2. Observe also that we can continuously add information and expand our codex as we go along and learn new things. I have now exposed the pattern how an outliner might work. Here are the prompts that I use in the chat section. 2. Go from synopsis to chapter summaries. You can of course adjust this prompts to your own preferences. The first prompt divides the synopsis into 7 chapters. The second prompt expands each chapter summary to 200 words. This results in proposed chapter summaries. We will then manually process those to get the final chapter summaries. Now, let's go one level down in our hierarchy. Here are the prompts that we can use to go from a chapter summary to scene summaries. The first prompt divides a chapter summary into 6 scenes. The second prompt expands each scene summary to 200 words. This results in proposed scene summaries. We will then manually process those to get the final scene summaries. Now, we have come to the point where we will generate scene prose in the plan section of the Novelcrafter. But before that, let's discuss the concept of beats. In Novelcrafter we generate prose in beats. A beat is about 200 to 400 words. We divide a scene summary into beat summaries. We want our scene to be 800 words, which means that in our case we choose one scene summary equals 3 beat summaries. Here is the prompt that I used to go from a beat summary to beat prose. You can of course adjust this prompts to your own preferences. Observe that AI will generate proposed scene prose, one beat at a time. After the beats are done, we get proposed scene prose. Now, we manually process that to get the final scene prose. Now this process, going from a scene summary to scene prose, is the heart of Novelcrafter. And we will devote a whole tutorial on how to do just that, using the available tools. And what are these tools? We can generate beat prose by using the Generate Prose button. Once the prose has been generated we can apply, retry or discard. When we select a part of the text, we can expand it, rephrase it or shorten it. Let's summarize. We have seen how we can go from the synopsis to chapter summaries, and then from chapter summaries to scene summaries. And how to use those scene summaries to write the scene prose. In our example we need 9 snippets, 1 for the synopsis, 1 for chapter summaries, and 7 for scene summaries. Then we need to copy the scene summaries over to our plan section. There will be 42 copy and paste, since we have 42 scenes. And then we have to generate prose for those 42 scenes. And then we have to export everything to our draft. This tutorial has been a conceptual one. The next tutorial will be hands-on, that is, we will go to Novelcrafter and concretely do what we have talked about here. Before we finish, let's reflect on what we have done. The summaries we have collected in our snippets is what is normally called an outline. Another reflection is that we have started from the synopsis and generated all the pieces in order to produce our novel. That is normally called synthesis. But we could have gone in opposite direction. We could have started with a finished novel, and generated all the pieces, and ended up with our synopsis. That is normally called analysis. Analysis is an excellent way of learning how to write a novel, by studying existing novels. We will explore that in another tutorial. That's all for this time. Thank you for watching.